Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I want you to drop right into the sweltering heat of Miami in July 2026. We're talking about what was, without a doubt, one of the most thrilling David versus Goliath clashes in sports history.
Picture this, all right? Lionel Messi's Argentina, the defending world champions, locked in a brutal, extra-time battle in the round of 32 against tournament debutants Cabo Verde. It's crazy, right? The big question we really have to ask ourselves here is how? How does a tiny island nation with a population of barely 530,000 push the absolute greatest team in the world right to the very brink?
I mean, just look at the staggering gap between these two teams. On one hand, you've got Argentina, ranked #1 globally, a population of 46 million, and they're defending their World Cup title. On the other hand, Cabo Verde, ranked 67th, just over 500,000 people stepping onto the tournament stage for the exact first time. To put it in perspective, the scale of this contrast is just wild. It perfectly sets up the ultimate underdog story on football's absolute grandest stage.
So to figure out how this team, affectionately known as the Blue Sharks, actually possessed the belief to pull off this massive Cinderella story, we really need to listen to their coach, Bubista. He hit the nail on the head when he said, "We're a small country, but it's only small on the map. A small country with a big heart." And you know what? To truly understand this team, we have to take his advice. We've got to look way beyond the map.
Their unyielding identity is forged across an Atlantic archipelago of 10 islands. We're going to tour the 3 defining pillars of this nation and this football team, which are basically salt, fire, and soul.
Our first stop is Sal, which literally translates to the island of salt. It's known for these incredibly flat, arid landscapes and the really striking Pedra de Lume volcanic crater. Now, salt has been extracted here since the 18th century. It's this grueling industry that sustained the island for centuries, and it perfectly represents that gritty, roll-up-your-sleeves work ethic of the Cabo Verdean people.
Next up is Fogo. Now, picture a towering volcano reaching 2,800 meters into the sky. That's Fogo. It's the island of fire. And honestly, it perfectly mirrors the fiery, fearless passion the national team brings right onto the pitch. Whenever you watch the Blue Sharks play, you're literally watching the raw energy of Fogo in motion.
Finally, we make our way to Santiago. This is the largest island, and really the deep-rooted soul of Cabo Verde. Home to the capital city of Praia, it's packed with diverse landscapes, from fertile valleys to steep mountains. It acts as the historical, cultural, and political center. It's the beating heart that connects a massive, diverse diaspora of Cabo Verdeans scattered all across the globe. But, hey, looking at geography is only half the story, right? So how exactly did these once uninhabited volcanic islands transform into the fiercely resilient nation we saw captivating the entire world in 2026? Well, this relentless spirit definitely wasn't born overnight. It was forged in the fires of 5 long centuries of struggle, incredible hardship, and massive transformation.
Let's trace this out on a timeline. These islands were totally uninhabited until Portuguese explorers arrived way back in 1456. Because of their strategic location, they unfortunately became a major hub in the transatlantic slave trade. Fast forward through centuries of brutal colonial rule, and in 1956, a man named Amilcar Cabral forms the PAGCIC to demand better conditions. This sparks a massive push for freedom, eventually accelerated by the 1974 Carnation Revolution in Portugal, which finally culminated in full independence on July 5, 1975.
Let's pause on the PAGC for a second. That stands for the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cabo Verde. Under Amilcar Cabral's leadership, they actually started out seeking peaceful change. But when they were met with violent repression, they had to pivot and ignited an armed rebellion to overthrow colonial rule. That fearless resistance against a vastly more powerful empire, that laid the exact psychological groundwork for the modern nation we see today. And wow, the transformation since 1975 is just incredible. Back then, very few people in the international community thought this newly independent, resource-poor microstate could even survive. But look at them today. Cabo Verde is a highly stable, lower-middle-income representative democracy. They graduated from the UN's least developed countries list and rank as one of the most developed and democratic nations in all of Africa. The main takeaway here: overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds is literally baked into their national DNA.
Which brings us to the 2026 campaign and the road to the World Cup. It is exactly this legacy of defying the doubters that fueled the national football team's historic run.
Competing in the notoriously tough African or CAF qualifiers, the Blue Sharks racked up an astonishing 23 points. To put that number into perspective, they won 8 of their 10 group stage matches. This wasn't luck. This was an absolute masterclass in tactical execution.
Just look at their run in Group D. It was flawless at home, a 100% home record, with 0 goals conceded in front of their home fans. And honestly, the craziest part, they finished 4 points ahead of African giants Cameroon. Keep in mind, Cameroon is a nation with 8 previous World Cup appearances. The Blue Sharks didn't just scrape by, they dominated their group and completely left the heavyweights in the dust.
So, entering the tournament in North America, they were handed what pretty much everyone considered an impossible task. They were drawn into Group H, and their schedule was an absolute gauntlet. They had Spain, the 2010 champions, in Atlanta, then former champs Uruguay and Miami, and finally a super competitive Saudi Arabia squad in Houston. Every pundit out there expected them to just be happy to participate and go home early.
But man, did they prove everyone wrong with what became known as the breakthrough. Relying on incredible tactical organization from Coach Bubista, they delivered these totally fearless performances. They drew on a diverse roster with players based everywhere from Portugal to the Netherlands to the US. Key contributors like Dalen Livramento and their captain, Ryan Mendes, stepped up massively, shocking the entire world to advance right out of the group stages.
Now we hit the round of 32, the ultimate test. This brings us right back to that sweltering July evening in Miami, going head-to-head with the world number 1, Argentina.
And what a climax it was. Against literally all expectations, the brilliant Blue Sharks fought back and erased 2 different deficits. Every single time Argentina thought they had broken them, Cape Verde hit right back. The defining moment of regular time came in the 73rd minute. Their veteran goalkeeper, Vozinha, made this massive, heroic save against a super-quick Lionel Messi free kick, incredibly forcing the whole game into extra time.
The media reaction perfectly captured the shock of the moment. NBC Sports ran the headline, "World Champs Survive Almighty Scare from Brilliant Blue Sharks." As the grueling match wore on into that final 30 minutes of extra time, something amazing happened. The heavily favored Argentinians actually started to fade, while Cabo Verde only grew stronger, both physically and in their belief. They completely captured the hearts of millions of people watching globally.
Although Argentina did ultimately escape with a 3-2 victory, the final scoreline really doesn't tell the whole story. Cabo Verde had proven they were true equals on that pitch. They executed one of the most stunning, courageous performances in World Cup history against the defending champions.
They walked away from the tournament as the ultimate Cinderella story, which really leaves us with this final thought. If a nation of just 530,000 people, born out of volcanic fire and 500 years of hard-fought resilience, can push the reigning world champions to the absolute limit, what barrier will this small country with a big heart break next?